Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Engine Builder Show. For our episode today, Gabe will be talking about something very interesting, the key lessons he learned from the last recession that will help with this one. If you like the sound of that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody.
There was always a ton to learn. All right. Thank you for tuning in today, wherever you're watching live, or if you get to listen to the audio podcast later, or you're catching this on YouTube. I wanted to take a minute and talk about what I believe is a pending recession that we are just probably, if not already in, or just days away from or weeks away from. There's definitely a lot going on, specifically with the U.S. economy, which I know impacts the rest of the world too. I think many of the large countries in the world have an impact on others, and so I know this will have impact on not just the United States but other countries as well. And having gone through a pretty intense recession in 07 and 08, that's when I actually lost my first business and went bankrupt. And I learned a ton during that season. And so having lived through one and being very aware of it, I know when I was much younger in the 80s, there was a pretty big recession as well. But in the 2000s, that was definitely the one that impacted me the most and that I was most present and aware of. And I believe that as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as business owners, we have the opportunity to use situations and environments like this to grow, to help others, and to be, to be more effective. Or we can ignore things and we can keep repeating the same mistakes and not learn from the lessons, which of course is not what we want to do. So I just want to call out a few things that I think are really important to be aware of. And hopefully you're in a state of being prepared and aware and ready for these things. But if you're not, I still want to encourage you to keep your eyes wide open, pay attention to what's happening, learn from what you're going to go through over the coming months and year or two here probably, and use it, whatever discomfort, adversity, pain you feel, use it to prepare yourself and learn a lot so that you're prepared for the next one. Because the good news, the bad news, however you want to look at it, the truth is that all economies go through cycles and have a reset, and we're long overdue for one. It's 2022. The last one was, we'll say, still actively going on in 2008. And so we are, what is that? We're like 14 years past a big, heavy reset in the economy. And it can happen anywhere between 8 to 10 or 12 years. I feel like the economy is getting smarter over the years, but it still has to have resets and cycles. And so the things I want to share with you are the key lessons that I learned from the last recession that I'm confident that will help you be aware this time around. And you probably already have some of these things in place, hopefully. But if you don't, take a minute, absorb this, and use this as a learning experience, because the good news is life is a really long time. And if we're careful and intentional each day, we have the ability to learn from what's happening and be in a stronger position in the future, which means we'll have more security and safety. And just as importantly, we'll have the ability to help and serve others around us, which is really the gift of wealth and experience, is being in a position where you can help others. So the first thing to pay attention to is one of the key lessons I learned last time around was that financial intelligence is the first protection against a recession. Because if you take time to learn things like how to personally budget your money, how to budget for your business, how to have cash management, and how to just understand the basics of how the stock market works, currency, inflation, the things that we're all facing, and also getting really grounded in what true value is, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. Those types of things are going to give you the knowledge and the peace of mind to know, here's what's happening, here's the expectations. Just like I shared a couple minutes ago, the economy resets like this every 8 to 12 years normally. It's a little bit of a longer stretch, it feels like this time. But it happens. So if you know these things are going to happen, and you can historically look and see how they've been happening for decades, then it surprises you less, and you can have some expectation of what's going to occur. So financial intelligence is your first protection against a recession, because you will be more equipped with the knowledge and that will make your experience different. The second thing to really pay attention, the key that had I known this in like the year 1999 and 2000, I would probably still have my contracting business, and would have this business as well, most likely. But profitability trumps everything else. And so if you're profitable, then you have the ability to weather the storms that come your way. If you're barely breaking even, or you're losing money, or you don't even know what your profit margins are or how to generate profit, then you're going to struggle, because when things slow down, any slowdown is a cash flow hit, and you don't have the ability to ride that through. From an entrepreneurial perspective, this is what I call, entrepreneurs living paycheck to paycheck, from one job to the next, or to a good season to a slow season. And I was definitely in that position and really struggled. I look back and I'm half, it's just a weird feeling, to be honest. I don't even know how to describe part of it. But when I look back to my first business, I was doing millions of dollars over a handful of years, and I didn't make a six-figure income. I was barely making ends meet because I wasn't profitable. So no matter how high I drove top line revenue, I wasn't operating profitably. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're doing $10 million a year. If you're losing money, you're losing money. And so the art of being profitable is really important. And so if you know your margins, if you know how to increase them, if you have discipline in the sales that you do, the sales that your team does, and you sell things that are profitable, then you have the ability to be successful. So it's really key. Profitability trumps everything else. If you remember that and you focus on profits, you will be able to ride out a lot bigger storms than if your margins are so low, or if you're breaking even or losing money, which I see too often when I step in and coach businesses or help them with turnarounds and things like that. Then you're just going to struggle, and you don't have any cushion, you don't have any air. But profit is the air. It's the resources, it's the supplies that we need to ride out these temporary bumps that come in the economy. And the last thing, the key that I learned from the last recession, and that I will always remember, is that real value is the foundation of strong businesses and strong economies. And so what happened in the last recession in 07, 08, is there was big financial institutions bundling together really risky loans. They were risky because, people that historically didn't pay their bills were getting loans that they shouldn't have. There were people, myself included, because I made these same mistakes throughout the whole thing, who were so leveraged with debt that they could never meet their debt obligations, even if the interest rates went up slightly, or if the economy slowed down and they weren't making as much money. And they were, and so essentially these big banking institutions were bundling together all these loans and saying, oh, these are valuable, they're strong, they're going to produce revenue for you. And they were selling them to other banks, to other entities. It's a very short snapshot of what happened. There was a lot that happened in 07, 08. But essentially, if we look at the principles behind it, there was this inflated false value that was being sold. Everybody was buying real estate for too much money, for too little interest. We weren't really balancing our risk well in our financial markets. And because of that, because there wasn't actual value and stability behind what was being sold, eventually that popped and crashed, and it had to reset. And this is purely just my opinion, having learned from the past things. I'm not giving you financial advice. You should talk to licensed professionals when you're getting financial advice. But from an entrepreneurial sense, and from my opinion and from the experience that I've had, we are experiencing what will likely move into a officially declared recession, because we are in a recession. It just hasn't been fully labeled that yet. We're moving into that because there has been so much money thrown at things that aren't valuable. Crypto is a big driver behind why we're going to see this recession, because there's not tangible full value there yet. Real estate is overinflated again. So there's the value, the propped up value exceeds the real value. We've had a ton of money pumped into our economy the last couple of years with the pandemic. And so things have been inflated. And so we're just in a position where the stated value, the inflated value of things, is not the actual value. And so the economy is a living organism that's driven by individuals like me and you and a lot of different folks out there. And yes, there's, government entities that have input and influence, but really the economy is driven by us. And so what's happening is the actual value of things is being found out. And so it's causing a reset. The economy is just kind of a living organism, right? And so I would encourage you to be careful and be critical when you get into new things, when you see the crowd going one direction, because usually when there's trendy wealth going on, there's a few people at the top that are earning the money, and everybody else is going to get what's left over and you lose out. But if you really pay attention to what are the real deliverables, what are the real value that I'm delivering, is this something that people will want and use and be necessary in good times and bad, then you start to really establish what real value is. So just as we go through this, keep your eyes open, learn a lot, invest in more financial intelligence. If you're trusting somebody else to manage your money and you don't know anything about what's going on, you're going to struggle at some point. I've seen it happen over and over. So invest in financial intelligence, invest in training, processes, internal operations, the routines and habits that make you profitable and make you more profitable than anybody else in your space, because that's what will help you survive. And then remember, last but not least, that real value is the foundation of strong businesses and strong companies. So be careful that you're not chasing things that are fictitious value, things that are inflated value, things that really haven't been proven to hold value, because those can cause you issues. So be aware when the market is inflated. So if you're playing in those spaces, you're aware of your risk. Those are the things that I would encourage you to pay attention to. And as always, just history will teach you a lot about what we're going through, and it will teach you about what's coming next. As humans, we have yet to escape the cycle of history. And so there's always a lot we can learn from that. So I hope that as you go through this season, it's a profitable season for you, because if you do have these foundational things in place, then you're going to be able to invest. You're going to be able to outlast whatever comes. It's going to be an opportunity to buy things that other people can't afford or they're losing. There's definitely a lot of opportunity here, but it first starts with having those foundational kind of principles in mind and having the right mindset to go through this. So I wish you the best as you go through this. I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. If you have any questions about my experience or anything that I can share my opinion on, I would love to. But otherwise, thanks for taking time to tune in today, and we will see you on tomorrow's show.